The hall was silent, filled with beings from across the galaxy, some with glowing eyes, others with sharp claws, and many watching with suspicion. But all attention was on the pair standing at the center. Jarin, a human from Earth, stood tall in a dark ceremonial uniform. He was nervous, but calm, his eyes fixed on the tall figure beside him. She wore silver armor laced with soft violet fabric, her eyes burning like twin stars. She was Princess Alira, heir to the throne of Velora Prime, and today they were two. Be married, Dot. It was a marriage that shocked both species. Velorans were proud, powerful, and rarely trusted outsiders. Humans, on the other hand, were still new to the galactic stage, viewed by many as wild Deathworlders, too unpredictable to trust. But Alira had chosen Jarin. She claimed he had earned her respect during a joint rescue mission in the Outer Rim. Still, not everyone believed this was real love. Many whispered that the union was political. Others thought it was a test to see how humans would behave when given royal power. Some even bet the marriage would end in disaster before the sun set on Velora Prime. But Jarin didn't care about the rumors, Dot. As the high priest raised his staff, Jarin took Alira's hand. It felt firm, her fingers stronger than steel. She squeezed his hand just slightly, a sign of trust. "You do not fear me?" she asked quietly, voice low but intense. "I fear disappointing you," Jarin replied, voice steady. She tilted her head slightly. "Strange human," she whispered, a hint of a smile breaking her normally serious face. The priest spoke ancient words, sealing the union. And then it was done. Cheers erupted across the great hall. Some were sincere. Most were not. After the ceremony, Jarin followed Alira through the royal halls of crystal and stone. Guards lined the path, their eyes never leaving the new human prince. Alira walked ahead, silent and unreadable. When they reached her chambers, the doors closed behind them with a heavy thud. The room was massive, filled with glowing plants, floating orbs of light, and old weapons on the walls. A fire burned in a black stone hearth. Alira removed her silver headpiece, placing it gently on a table. "You should know," she began, turning to Jarin. "Our wedding night will not be like yours on Earth." Jarin blinked. "I didn't expect it to be." "Good," she said, stepping closer, "because our traditions are different." Before Jarin could ask more, she reached to the side and tapped a small black panel on the wall. A low hum filled the room. Suddenly, the light shifted, and so did the air. Gravity dropped for a second, then returned. "Do you know what that was?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "A defensive field?" she smirked. "No, it's a truth seal. From this moment, nothing spoken in this room can be a lie." Jarin stared at her. "Why?" "Because," she said, stepping within inches of him, "our real wedding begins now. Not with wine or dancing, but with truth. You are now bound to me, and I must know who you truly are." He felt his pulse quicken, not from fear, but from realization. This wasn't just romance. This was Veloran custom, their way of ensuring a partner could be trusted. Their entire marriage rested on what happened tonight. Alira sat cross-legged before the fire and motioned for him to sit across from her. "Tell me," she said, voice calm, "what do you fear most?" Jarin hesitated, but only for a moment. "Losing." "Control," he said honestly. "Becoming the kind of man who forgets where he came from." Alira's eyes narrowed slightly, reading his expression. Then she nodded. "Your turn," he said, meeting her gaze. "What about you?" She didn't blink. "Being seen as weak by my people, or worse, by you." A pause. The fire crackled between them. The marriage had officially begun, but tonight would decide its fate. Jarin sat still, his back straight, trying to read the emotions on Alira's sharp face. The fire between them made shadows dance across the crystal walls. Outside, 2 moons hung over the city of Velora Prime, but inside this chamber, only truth was allowed. Your fear, Alira said softly, is not weakness. Many warriors fear. The same, but admitting it, that is strength. Jaren gave a small nod. And you, Princess Alira? She interrupted. Tonight, I am not a princess. I am only your bondmate. That word bondmate carried weight. He'd heard it in Valoran culture classes. It was deeper than spouse. It meant a sacred connection built on loyalty, truth, and trust in the heat of battle and in the silence of sleep. Alira stood and walked to a silver chest near the wall. She opened it and brought out a small glowing stone. It pulsed with a dim blue light. This is called a memory crystal, she said. One person speaks into it. The other hears not just the words, but the emotion behind them. She handed it to Jaren. Say the moment that changed your life, she said, and I will see who you are. Jaren took the crystal, the warmth from her hand still lingering on its surface. He closed his eyes, then spoke softly into the crystal. It was during the colony raid on Delphi 4. I was just a medic, but we lost our commander. I had to lead a squad through fire and rubble. I had never killed before that day. He felt the moment again, the smell of ash, the weight of the gun in his hand, the screams. Alira touched the crystal and closed her eyes. For a moment, she was silent. When she opened them, her face had softened. You felt guilt, she said. Quietly. You didn't want to lead? You just wanted to save lives. Jaren nodded. But I learned something. Even peacekeepers must fight if they want peace to survive. Alira returned to her seat. She reached for the crystal. My turn. She spoke into it in her native language. The words were soft and sharp, like wind across metal dot. Then she passed it back to him. When Jaren touched it, a strange warmth flowed into his chest. He saw flashes, not pictures, but feelings. He felt a cold hall, filled with silence. He felt her standing alone, watching her father go to war. She had begged him not to fight, but he did. He never came back. Jaren blinked. You became a warrior because of him. Yes, she said. I was trained young. Trained to win, to lead, and never cry. I wear armor because it's safer than wearing hope. Jaren didn't speak. There was nothing to say asterisk. They sat for a while in silence, not uncomfortable, just quiet. Finally, Alira stood again. Now we face the second part of the bonding, she said. Combat. Jaren raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? She smiled for the first time all night. Veloran tradition. To know someone's strength, you must feel it in battle. Don't worry, we won't use real weapons. Jaren stood and followed her to a large open area at the back of the chamber. A soft platform rose from the floor. Lights above flickered on, and the walls around them dimmed. Ready? She asked, dropping into a low stance. I guess this counts as our honeymoon, Jaren said with a smirk. Alira lunged first fast. And graceful. Jaren ducked and rolled aside, barely missing a palm strike aimed at his shoulder. He countered with a simple sweep, but she spun away like flowing wind. They danced across the floor strike, dodge, block, spin. Their breath quickened. Sweat formed. On their skin, neither tried to win. They only tried to understand. After several minutes, Alira backed away and held up her hand. Asterisk. That's enough, she said, breathing heavily. I've seen what I needed. Jaren was panting, but smiling. So, do I pass? Alira stepped closer than before. You passed long ago. This was just for me. He swallowed. The tension between them had shifted. Their bond had deepened, not just by tradition, but through truth, memory, and battle. She reached out, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, and whispered, "Now, the real night begins." And the chamber doors sealed shut behind them once more. The soft light of the chamber dimmed as Alira stepped closer to Jaren. The fire glowed low, casting gentle warmth on the stone floor. This wasn't just a royal suite, it was a sacred space, where Valoran customs unfolded in private. But just as Alira reached out, a sharp tone echoed through the walls. Beep. Beep. An alert panel lit up beside the door, red and urgent. The room's energy field shimmered and dropped. Someone was requesting entry and using a high-level override code. Alira's eyes darkened. That code. It belongs only to one person. She walked to the door and pressed her hand against the panel. With a soft hiss, the doors slid open, and in stepped a tall figure in dark armor, marked with the crest of the Royal Council. His face was stern, and his expression colder than space itself. "Commander Dre," Alira said tightly, "you enter my chamber on the night of my bonding." "I had no choice," Dre replied, voice like iron. "You may have chosen this human, but the Council has not. A threat has been discovered." Jaren stepped forward. "If this is about me—" "It's not," Dre cut in. "But it concerns you now, since you wear the crown's bond." He handed Alira a small data pad. She scanned it quickly, her brow furrowing. "A spy?" she asked. Dre nodded. "Captured near the inner vaults." "Not Valoran, not human." Jaren moved beside her. "Then who?" Dre turned to him slowly. The markings on its uniform suggest it came from the outer rogue world's exiled species who refuse council law. Alira's voice was sharp. "Why now? Why tonight?" "Because," Dre said, narrowing his eyes at Jaren, "someone told them this bonding would happen. Someone leaked your location." The air went heavy. Alira's hand closed into a fist. "You're accusing someone?" "I'm accusing many," Dre said. "You brought an outsider into the royal bloodline. That invites attention. And danger." Jaren took a step forward. "I don't need your trust. But I didn't betray anyone." Dre glared at him. "We'll see." Alira stepped between them. "Enough. This is my bondmate. He is under my protection. You'll speak to him with respect." The commander didn't reply. He gave a small bow and left, but his message remained like a shadow in the chamber. After the door shut, Alira turned to Jaren. "The timing is too perfect. Someone wants to ruin this bond before it begins." Jaren nodded slowly. "We need to find out who." She walked to a control panel and brought up a map of the palace. A red dot blinked in the lower right corner. "That's the prisoner. They're keeping him in the underhull cells, deep below." Jaren narrowed his eyes. "Can we see him?" "Not officially," Alira said, turning to him. "But unofficially, I can take you there." Jaren's lips curved into a determined smile. "Good. I didn't come here just to wear a crown. I came to be your partner." Alira looked at him, really looked. "Then put on your boots. We're going hunting." They moved through hidden passages beneath the royal tower, cloaked by Alira's override access. Jaren followed closely, his boots silent against the smooth floors. The air was colder down here, and the halls were lit by thin strips of blue light. They reached the cell block, guarded by 2 Valoran sentries in full armor. Alira spoke calmly. "Leave us. That's a direct order." The guards hesitated only. A second, then stepped aside. Inside the cell, a strange figure sat hunched on a bench. Its skin was pale gray, with ridges along its arms. Black eyes blinked slowly in the dim light. When Jaren stepped in, the prisoner lifted its head and hissed. "Stepped forward. Tell me who sent you." The alien smiled, its voice low and cold. "You already know." She frowned. "Speak plainly." "I was sent because your bond is a threat. Your union could bring change. The old ones do not want change. Jaren's jaw tightened. Who are the old ones? The alien leaned closer. Not who, what. You're not just marrying into a family, human. You're marrying into a secret war. Alira's eyes narrowed. Jaren stepped closer to her and whispered, "This marriage wasn't just political. It's part of something bigger. And now, the wedding night wasn't just about trust or tradition. It was about survival." Asterisk Jaren stood still, watching the alien prisoner behind the energy field. Its gray skin shimmered under the blue light, and those cold black eyes stared back. Like deep space. Alira said nothing. She was thinking, and when Valoran royalty thought, worlds could tremble. "The old ones," Jaren repeated. "Who are they afraid of me?" The alien smiled with its sharp, needle-like teeth. "Not just you. What you two represent." Alira stepped forward, her voice low and calm. "Explain." The prisoner tilted its head. "Your people were never meant to bond. Valorans rule through strength. Humans survive through chaos. You're building something new. That scares them." Jaren didn't move. "You mean the council?" The alien's laugh was soft and strange. "The council are pawns. The true threat lies deeper. Beneath the throne, beneath your history." Alira's hand curled into a fist. "You're talking about the hidden order." Jaren looked at her, confused. "The what?" Alira turned to him. "A secret group. Some say they existed long before the current government. They keep balance by controlling fear, through war, lies, and silence. They don't want peace," Jaren said slowly. "They want control." The alien nodded. "And you broke their game when you said I do?" Alira didn't flinch. "What's their next move?" The prisoner leaned forward. "They'll test your bond. They'll make you doubt him. And if you break the union, they win." Jaren stepped forward. "Let them come. I didn't risk everything to walk away now." The alien gave a strange bow. "Then we'll all see what love is worth in the age of knives and lies." Alira signaled the guards to return. As the field reactivated, she grabbed Jaren's hand and led him out. Her grip was strong, but her mind was clearly racing. They returned to the hidden tunnels, climbing toward the upper levels of the palace. As they walked, Jaren asked, "How long have you known about the hidden order?" "Since I was a child," Alira replied. "My mother once warned me, when you feel watched from the shadows, don't look away. They already know your name." Jaren swallowed. "Do you think the order will act soon?" "They already have," she said. "You felt it too, didn't you? The strange way the guards looked at you. The warning from Commander Dre. Even the way the council barely clapped after our bonding ceremony." "They want us to fail," Jaren said. "They need us to fail," she corrected. "Because if we don't, others will start following our example. More unions, more alliances, and less control for them." They reached the grand hall where the bonding had taken place earlier that night. It was now empty. The lights dimmed. The floating chandeliers above gave off a soft golden glow. Jaren turned to her. "So what do we do?" Alira faced him fully. "Now, we give them what they fear most." He raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "A bond that cannot be broken," she said simply. Jaren smiled slightly. "You really believe in this?" "You?" "I do," she said, stepping closer. "But belief isn't enough. They will test us, and not with weapons. With secrets, doubt, lies planted in the dark." Jaren nodded. "Then we tell the truth before they twist it." Alira paused, then reached for her belt. She pulled out a thin silver chain with a glowing emblem. "This is the Keeper's token. It unlocks the high vaults. No outsider has ever entered." Jaren stared at it. "Why me?" "Because I trust you," she said. "And because whatever the order is hiding, It's time we saw it for ourselves. He took the token slowly. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky of Velora Prime. The moons vanished behind dark clouds dot in the distance. Lights flickered off across the palace, one by one. The night wasn't over, Dot. It had only just begun. Jarin held the keeper's token tightly in his palm. It pulsed with a soft blue light, warm against his skin. The symbol in the center and eye, with a crown above it, felt heavier than it looked. Alira walked beside him in silence, her armor clicking softly with each step. They moved quickly through the palace's lower levels, deeper than even the royal guards were allowed to go. The lights were dim, and the walls were made of black stone, untouched by time, older than the palace itself. This area isn't on any map, Jarin whispered. Alira nodded. Because it wasn't meant to exist. Only the ruling bloodline knows the way. Then how did the Order find out about it? Her eyes narrowed. Because they were here first. They reached a large circular door 20 feet tall, with ancient symbols carved into its surface. In the center was a small round indent. Jarin stepped forward and placed the token. Inside, the ground trembled. Gears turned deep within the walls. Then the door slowly slid open with a heavy groan, revealing a long tunnel lit by floating lights that reacted to their presence. As they walked inside, Jarin noticed carvings along the walls. They showed images of beings that looked like Velorans, but taller, more powerful, with armor fused into their bodies. Who are they? He asked quietly. Alira didn't answer at first. Then she said, the first ones, before my people became rulers. They were servants to these ancient beings. They walked deeper until the tunnel opened into a massive vault chamber. Rows of glowing pods stood along the walls. Some were broken. Others hummed with power. In the center of the room sat a large black throne made of stone and crystal. It pulsed with energy, alive in some strange way. Alira approached it slowly. This is the throne of origin, the source of our rule. Jarin looked around. Why is it hidden? Because it's not just a seat of power, she said. It's a prison. Jarin blinked. What do you mean? She pointed to the carvings around the base of the throne. They showed a figure rising from it, and entire worlds falling into darkness. This throne once held a being called the Warden. Alira explained. Long ago, it tried to control all minds across the stars. Veloran warriors trapped it inside, but its influence never truly died. Jarin frowned. So the Order. They worship it, she said, voice hardening. They believe control brings peace, and they use its whispers to guide their plans. Jarin turned slowly to face her. Alira, why bring me here? She stepped closer. Because I believe you can resist it. No one else has before. He laughed softly. Why me? Because you come from chaos, from a death world. You're not born into control. You fight it. Jarin looked at the throne, the cold dark stone pulsing faintly. If I sit on that thing, will it speak to me? She nodded. It will try. 2, it will show you lies, fears, things you don't want to see. And if I lose? She paused. Then the Order wins. They'll claim you were too weak. They'll use it to tear us apart. Jarin turned to the throne. Then I won't lose. He stepped forward and placed both hands on the cold armrests. Instantly, the vault went silent. The lights dimmed. The ground shook. Jarin's mind exploded with images, earth burning. Alira turning away, his hands soaked in blood. Being alone, forgotten, used. He clenched his jaw. No, not real. The throne pushed harder, showing him battlefields, lost friends, failed missions. He felt his knees buckle. Stop, he growled. You're just shadows? Then, from the storm in his head, a voice whispered, You don't belong. Walk away, and she lives. But Jaren stood tall. "No," he said, "I do belong, and I'll protect her with everything I have." A flash of light burst from the throne, and the images vanished. Alira ran to his side as he collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. "You did it," she whispered. "You resisted it." Jaren looked up at her, sweat running down his face. "Then, we know what we're up against." She helped him up. "And we're not running." They turned away from the throne. Behind them, the vault lights slowly faded. But ahead, war was already on the horizon. Asterisk. Jaren and Alira stepped out of the vault, the great stone door sealing behind them with a deep rumble. The shadows in the tunnels felt thicker now. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was waiting. Jaren wiped sweat from his brow, still shaken from what the throne had shown him. "I saw lies," he whispered. "But they felt real." Alira nodded. "That's how the warden speaks through fear. It bends truth until you don't know what to believe." They hurried back toward the upper levels of the palace. But when they reached the second stairwell, they found 2 royal guards lying on the ground, unconscious or dead. Alira drew her blade instantly, eyes narrowing. "This wasn't the order," she muttered. "This was personal." Jaren picked up one of the guards' fallen weapons. "You think someone inside the palace did this?" She nodded. "Someone with clearance. Someone who knew we were gone." They moved through the shadows, staying silent, alert. As they turned into one of the upper walkways overlooking the ceremony hall, Alira stopped suddenly and pulled Jaren behind a column. Below them, walking calmly through the great hall, was Commander Dre. But he was not alone. A robed figure walked beside him, shorter, thinner, wrapped completely in gray cloth. Its face was hidden, but Jaren didn't need to see it to know. His instincts screamed danger. Alira watched quietly. Voice low. "That's not a council member. That's an assassin." Jaren's grip tightened on the weapon. "They're here for you." She shook her head. "No. Tonight, they'll go after you." He looked at her, confused. "They know I'm too guarded. But if they take you, break you, or even cast doubt, they ruin our bond." Below, the 2 figures stopped and spoke to another palace guard who nodded and disappeared down a side hall. "They're moving toward the royal wing," Jaren said. Alira's eyes locked with his. "Then we cut them off." They took a faster passage, a service corridor that led behind the grand statues of the royal bloodline. It was narrow, dark, and rarely used. Perfect for a surprise. Jaren moved ahead, careful with his steps. The weapon felt strange in his hand, not like Earth's rifles or stun sticks, but heavier, more alive. "I hate politics," he muttered. Alira gave a quiet smile. "Welcome to royalty." As they neared the corridor's end, they heard footsteps slow and purposeful. Then they saw him. Dre appeared first, walking casually through the main hall. But the assassin was no longer behind him. "He's bait," Jaren realized. Too late. A whisper of air, then pain. Jaren stumbled back as a thin blade grazed his shoulder. Alira spun, sword raised, just as the assassin emerged from the ceiling's shadow. It moved like smoke, fast and silent. Jaren blocked another strike, barely. His arm went numb. The assassin struck again, but Alira met the blade midair with a clang that echoed across the stone. "Sneaking into my palace on my bonding night," she growled. "Was your last mistake?" The assassin lunged at her, their blades clashing in a blur of movement. Sparks flew. Jaren stepped back, blood dripping from his arm, eyes searching for a chance to strike. Then he saw it. The assassin turned its focus completely to Alira, pressing hard. Jaren stepped forward, raised the fallen guard's pulse staff, and struck the back of the attacker's knee. The shock sent the figure to the ground with a hiss. Alira didn't hesitate. Her blade came down, stopping just at the neck. "Remove." "The mask," she ordered. Jaren knelt, pulled the cloth free. Underneath was a familiar face. Palace maid .1 Jaren had passed earlier that day. Quiet, always watching, never speaking. "She's been inside the royal quarters all week," Alira whispered. "She watched us the entire time." Jaren frowned. "But she wasn't Valoran." "No," Alira said, eyes wide. "She's from the rogue worlds. Planted. Years ago." Alira stood tall and looked to the balcony. Dre was gone. "He brought her in," Jaren said. Alira's voice was cold. "Then Commander Dre is with the Order." Jaren stepped beside her, shoulder bleeding but steady. "They failed tonight." Alira touched his face gently. "Because you stood your ground. The throne tried to break me. The assassin tried to silence me. But I'm still here," he said. She leaned closer. "And now the galaxy will know we are not just bonded. We are unbreakable." Above them, the sun was rising, but war was coming with the dawn. The palace buzzed with rising tension. Royal guards tightened patrols. Council members whispered behind closed doors. But the two people at the center of it all, Jaren and Alira, stood side by side in silence, watching the sunrise from the tallest balcony. Jaren's shoulder was wrapped tightly in cloth. The cut hurt, but it was nothing compared to the thoughts. In his mind, "I didn't come here to start a war," he said quietly. Alira stood beside him, arms crossed, her silver armor still smeared from battle. "You didn't start it. You were the excuse they needed." Jaren turned to her. "And you?" She looked out across the capital city, its towers catching the morning light, its people unaware of the shadows moving beneath them. "I was born into this, a throne built on secrets, a crown weighed down by ghosts." Jaren gave a soft laugh. "Romantic first night, huh?" That made her smile. Just slightly. They turned back toward the chamber, where Commander Dre's betrayal now echoed. Through every hallway. The maid assassin had been taken to the cells, but Dre himself had vanished, no trail, no sign. Just a name left behind. The Silent Flame. A name whispered in warnings. In the old stories about the Hidden Order, Alira summoned her personal guard. "We call an emergency council," she said. Now, by midday, every major figure from the Valoran High Command was seated in the Grand Flame Hall. Thick columns surrounded the circular chamber, with a glowing blue flame at its center. Alira stepped forward, wearing the crown of her house. Jaren stood behind her, not as decoration, but as witness. "I speak today not as a princess," she began, "but as a warrior who nearly died in her own halls." The council murmured. "Last night, an assassin entered the palace," she continued. "She wore the face of a servant. Her blade nearly ended my bondmate's life. Her mission came from within." The murmurs grew louder. One counselor stood. "Princess, if you accuse the Order, you accuse your own blood. Commander Dre served us for 20 cycles. He served someone, yes," Alira interrupted, "but not the throne. And not this. Council." She turned to the central flame. "The Hidden Order has moved against the crown. Their agent has been caught. Their lies exposed. If we do nothing now, we give them control." Another counselor spoke. "What proof do you have?" Jaren stepped forward, holding a hollow recording crystal dot. It projected an image. The captured assassin, speaking under Truth's seal. She named Dre, named the Order, spoke of the throne's secrets. Silence fell. Then came the oldest counselor, rising from his seat. He looked at Alira with steady, aged eyes. "This union, this bond between you and the human, it threatens old power. But perhaps it is time the old power feared us." Alira gave a slow nod. "Then you stand with me?" The old man lifted his hand. "For too long, we've hidden truth to keep control. But truth is stronger when shared. I stand with the bond. One by one, the counselors raised their hands. The vote was clear. Alira turned to Jaren. Then let the stars know. The throne no longer belongs to silence and shadows. Later that night, back in their chamber, Jaren finally sat beside her by the fire. The war hadn't come yet, but it would. The order would strike again. But for now, peace held. Alira placed her hand in his. I still can't believe you resisted the throne, she said softly. He smiled. I couldn't let it win. Not when I have someone like you to fight for. Alira looked at him with something rare in her eyes, gentleness, not weakness, not fear, but trust. I wasn't raised to love, she said. I was raised to lead. You can do both, Jaren replied, because now you're not alone. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Outside, the palace lights glowed into the night. The people below whispered of strange changes, of old powers fading. Asterisk and above them all, in a room once meant for secrets, sat a human and a princess bonded. Not by war or politics, but by choice. The galaxy had expected a simple wedding. Instead, it got a new era. End of story.